Welcome to Classical Chats, a series where I talk to people who love classical music, anyone from professional musicians to casual everyday listeners, or even you. My name is Tiffany, I'm a classical pianist, and I'm also the founder of Together with Classical, which is a nonprofit charity dedicated to your passion for classical music and to bringing everyone together in the shared passion for classical music. For the first few episodes, I am very honored to be partnering up with Dreamstage, which some of you actually saw me perform a live stream concert just a few days ago. It's a very, very revolutionary platform for high quality live streaming concerts, and I am very excited that I will be partnering with Dreamstage through my charity Together with Classical, where I get a chance to meet with these artists, talk about their experiences with music, and also offer a sponsored ticket giveaway. Actually, it's 20 concert tickets giveaway. Today is very exciting because it's the first episode of Classical Chats, and for today's guest, we have pianist Boris Giltburg. I actually met him last year in Mordsburg Festival, and I got to talk to him a little bit before, so I'm very glad to bring him on. He's very, very enthusiastic and passionate about the piano, and he's been embarking on this really amazing and just kind of crazy project of learning all 32 piano sonatas of Beethoven in 1 year in 2020. So let's talk to him a little bit, and I'm very excited.
Turn on video.
Hello.
Hey, great to see you, Tiffany. How are you?
Yeah, nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on
this. Sure. It's really cool. So everything here is beautiful, but very cluttered in terms of background.
Where are you? No, it's great. It's very majestic.
So
where are you?
It's in Bayreuth. It's the Rococo Zaal, and the piano that I'm actually going to play on is this.
Wow.
Which is a piano from 1873, built for Liszt.
Wow.
Who lived here, for a while.
How does it sound?
Beautiful.
But the piano made in Liszt's time, it must have a very sonorous bass, right?
It has very sonorous bass, but also really singing second octave above middle C, which is great. And
so I have a cheat sheet here, but so we actually met in person, I guess last summer, right?
Yeah, in
Mordsburg, and I got to hear him play some wonderful chamber music. When and why did you start learning the piano?
That's a good question. I started at the age of 5, and I come from a musician's family. My mom, my grandma, and my great-grandma were and are pianists and piano teachers, and we always had a piano at home. So at the ripe age of 5, I decided that I wanted to play the piano, because why was the piano there if not that I should play it? It seems, kids logic. And I asked my mom to teach me, and she said no.
Oh,
exactly. The disappointment, the despair, and the reason she told me later that she said no is that she felt we had far too many pianists in the family, and that I should be doing something different. Maybe I don't know. Maybe something more practical. I don't know. Maybe she didn't have an exact idea then, but not a pianist. But I pestered her for weeks because I really wanted to play. And after I think 3 weeks, she gave in and she started giving me lessons. And she said that from basically the first day, she realized that actually it's not a bad idea that I play the piano. And I love the piano from day one. I also around that time I tried the violin, and that went very badly. Whereas
I also was intrigued by the violin, but when I tried to tune my friend's violin, I broke a string, so I was like, maybe not.
Yes, that can be a traumatic experience.
Yes. Well, I'm very glad. I think the world's very glad that you chose to play the piano.
I love the piano.
I just want to kind of talk to you about Beethoven because I know you have
Pleasure.
a huge project
Yes.
happening this whole year. Do you want to explain to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So Beethoven has written 32 sonatas, and they are like one of the greatest pillars of piano literature. Together, it's about 11 hours of music, and they encompass 25 years of Beethoven's creative life. So basically, most of his life,
Right. Yeah.
in which he was writing music, and they were not meant for public performance at the time. Only one sonata has been played during his lifetime.
Oh wow, this I did not know.
So he used them as a laboratory of ideas, and they have some of the most revolutionary, visionary material which he has ever written. And I have only played 9 before I started this project. And the project, sorry, I haven't said what the actual project is to learn and film, record all 32 sonatas throughout the Beethoven anniversary year 2020. So when I started last October, I only had played 9 sonatas by then, so 23 would have been completely new for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we recorded 11 by time our world has changed in March. And
Yeah,
then
how has it been for you with the corona? Because I
with the
know you had
corona, so
all the filming and project planning so far in
and
advance.
and concerts, so everything got cancelled from mid-March onwards. I was in the States on tour, and in the middle of the tour, half the tour got cancelled from one day to another.
Mm.
So I managed to get home, and then I started doing live streams because I thought that I would go crazy if I just sit at home and don't do anything. So
Right.
it was my first time doing live streaming from home, so I was doing either playing or talking about pieces of music, like online master classes, and that allowed me to survive mentally during these months.
Ah,
Just this contact with the online
right.
audience. And then as soon as we had my filmmaker and me, as soon as we had the first chance to start filming safely once again, which was, we had the inkling in June, and we planned a 2-week period in July. And then the question, because in theory it was supposed to be 3 or 4 sonatas every month, which is very challenging, as you know,
Yeah.
just to learn them, to bring them to not just to glue them together, but to bring them to an interpretation which you feel does the music justice and that you can stand behind. But then March, April, May, and June, everything was cancelled. So in July, we decided to film as much as humanly possible, and we ended up filming 13 sonatas
Wow.
over the course of 9 days, and that
9 days.
it was preparing for that period was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life.
I mean, hats off.
It,
I don't know how that is even
it was
possible.
um,
What was that mentally for you? Were you
um,
nervous? I mean, it sounds
I was
nerve-wracking.
I was my biggest worry was just churning out material without it being musically good. So we took a lot of time every day to listen through to what we filmed and recorded, and if we felt like at midday that what we did in the morning wasn't quite good, then we spent the afternoon redoing it. So we decided when we started that we will not try to achieve many sonatas. We'll film as many as we can,
Right.
while the music level is what we'd like it to be. And I was quite surprised myself that we managed
I mean,
13
how many hours were you filming each day for
a
9?
day. We would start at 9, 8:30 to warm up, and then 9 to start filming. And then we finished most days around 8:30, so 11 and a half hours with a short lunch break.
That's crazy. But I'm also not surprised that you would be able to undertake such a challenge because when I was at Work Festival, I remember hearing you practice all the time and you were very rigorous in your practicing, whereas I was
Well,
filling around. But yeah, I'm kudos, really, just congratulations.
thanks, Tiffany. It might sound either insincere or crazy, but I really love practicing. It's not something that I do because I must, but for me, practicing is, apart from the technical stuff, which might be a bit boring and you just want to overcome the challenges so that you can start working on the music. But the actual, it's like you have the score, and it's a bit of a deciphering. So there's some kind of cryptology, cryptographics, and archaeology. You have this blueprint, and you must bring it back to life. And you only have the information which is written down in the score, and it's like trying to understand what he might have meant, right? I mean, it's not just about Beethoven, every composer and every score, but I found out several things during these months of working on Beethoven and filming. Something that I didn't know, because for me previously, the image of Beethoven which I had of my mind is the image which we have when we look at his portraits and bust, is this angry, scowling, brooding, the ideal, very serious, the ideal of the romantic period, this troubled genius. And then once you get to know the actual music more, because when I started, I have the feeling now that I just knew little islands that were floating above the surface, but I didn't know what brought them all together. Mm-hmm. And the more I learned, the more I realized that the core of Beethoven is not grumpiness, is not brooding, but is life, and is some kind of indomitable life energy. And we know that he knew despair, and him losing his hearing and not being able to play in public anymore, and all the other troubles which he had with his personal life and with his family life. And we see it in his letters, in his correspondence, and we hear it sometimes in the music. But what we hear more is how every single time he overcame this, and he came fighting back, and he came back overflowing with this unstoppable life energy. And I thought that in a way, for these really difficult lockdown months, there could hardly be a better companion than Beethoven, someone who knew isolation so well. And yet it did not bring him to bitterness or despair, but it brought out of him music which is universal, music which is suffused with love of humanity. Mm-hmm. Maybe not, it's famous how grumpy he could be toward individual people sometimes, but also every time he had these outbursts, the next morning he would write a big apology letter, overflowing with warmth and passion, and saying, this is how I am. Don't blame me for this outburst. You know how my heart reacts to these things, and this is what comes through in the music. And this is for me the biggest revelation of this project, that his music is so life affirming and also so modern. In a way, I find maybe that's one of the reasons why his music is so immensely popular to this day, is that his emotions are our emotions. It is immediately clear what he wants to say. It doesn't need some kind of translating algorithms, or sometimes knowing a bit of context helps, but also very often you don't need any context. The music just goes directly to your heart. So even though it's 200 years back, but it's very, very contemporary to us as well.
Yeah, there's a sense of just relating to each other as humans.
Yes,
it's very inspiring to hear you talk about just the sense of resilience, I guess, and just never backing down no matter what the adversity is. That's a really wonderful way of putting Beethoven in the context of nowadays. I never thought of it like that. So thank you. And I also, it's funny, just a few minutes before our call, I got a last minute call to play Beethoven again, which it's a composer that I don't really have the same affinity to as other composers, and I just want to play Schumann or someone else. But do you have any tips in general for approaching Beethoven sonatas? I mean, I'm in a time crunch, but just in general.
I can also relate to the time crunch, because, for example, the three sonatas opus 10, so the number 5, 6, and 7, I prepared from 0 to filming in 9 days.
Wow.
So I can really relate to the time crunch.
Yeah.
So
what's it like to work under time crunch?
It's exciting. I would say, so for example, this would not be possible with late Beethoven.
Yes.
Because there it's not a question of learning the notes that sometimes are not that difficult. There it just needs time to cook. It needs time to sink, and sometimes maybe students felt that when teachers were reluctant to give us a late Beethoven work, we felt rebellious. But I can understand that it just needs time.
Yes, I agree.
But early and middle Beethoven, I think, is very. I mean, it is difficult, no question. So what techniques I developed? First of all, my normal preparation would be of a new piece. I would read through it, and then I start slowly working up. So learning the piece, putting bits together, like everybody does.
Right. Well, I don't know. I've never talked to another artist about this, really.
Okay.
So this is very fascinating. Please.
Well, actually, I don't know, but at least that's the way how it works. So basically from slow to tempo, and from small units to the larger picture, putting the bigger section together, and finally getting to a moment where a whole movement is glued together, and I can play it through and I can listen and then continue from there. With the time punch, I did the exact opposite. I started playing in tempo from the score from day one. And what I would do, I would play the whole movement. I get stuck on a passage, I stop and work for 20 minutes on that passage, and then I continue. After a day of this, I basically memorized 2 of the 3 sonatas.
Wow.
And then what I started doing on the next day, I started recording myself and listening. And the first times were absolutely horrendous. Because the gap between what I was imagining, which was beautiful playing, and what was actually doing was huge.
Yeah.
But this immediately, yes, it does.
Which is why recording is so helpful, I think, to get an actual understanding of realistic.
Absolutely, because it's, even if you do just with your phone, it doesn't have to be fancy equipment. Just put the phone by the side of the piano, but you immediately get something which is more objective than our own imagination. And then you can start using this to bridge the gap. So you say, okay, so when I'm playing this and this is what I'm imagining, this is what I'm actually doing. And now I can affect this. So
it's funny because, I mean, not funny, but your second approach of how you were working under time crunch, that's actually the approach that I always go. I actually always go from the big to the small. So I would try to sight read. My YouTube audience has seen me done this. I just sight read all the way through, and then if I encounter a passage that I can't play right away, then I stop and correct.
Then you walk it. Well, then I think you will.
It's interesting. I never did the other way, but this is fascinating to understand. So do you think you would go back to your original non-time crunch way of approaching pieces, or do you think you will mix other way?
Well, at the moment I still can't think of a time after, because, for example, next week, not next week, next week on Monday, I'm filming, hopefully, if nothing changes, the next 6 sonatas. So I'm still very much in that mindset.
Is it the same as the ones you're playing on Dreamstage, or
no? No, apart from 111. So 111 is the only one which is shared, because I wanted for Dreamstage.
Yeah, how did you pick those? I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, so what unites them for me, because when I first put like a concept on paper, I wrote 4 of the most revolutionary sonatas, but I think the better word is visionary. Those sonatas are, for me, especially the first one, which I just filmed, which is Opus 27, number 1. So it's the sister sonata of the Moonlight. Of course, the Moonlight, it's absolutely obvious why it's one of the most popular pieces anybody has ever written. But I find that it works wonderfully in combination with the one which was written together with it, which is number 13. And for me, both of them, they just show some kind of vision that he had, because he could not have had any models for that. Even in the Pathétique, you can see where he might have had some inspiration from, or where some of his ideas might have come from. But Opus 27 it just comes out of nowhere, and after that, nothing can really do the same. So it's one of these watershed moments where a creator, one of the greatest genius, had this immense realization of something which was beyond what even he had accomplished. then or until then. And it's what was possible in terms of the colors and the sounds of an instrument, and what was possible in terms of form, what was possible in terms of putting emotion directly into the music, emotion which is not theatrical, not exaggerated, not telegraphed, but emotion which is absolutely genuine. And then the Waldstein does the same just several years later. When you get to the finale in particular, he created a sound world which just did not exist before that. This soft, it,
Oh,
we call,
right. And it's
yeah,
the last movement, right?
the
Yeah. Oh, I loved
so
playing that as a kid because I think
I love it
it
too.
brings you to such a different soundscape that's
Yeah,
outside
so
of what you normally associate with Beethoven as, the
exactly,
subito dynamic kind of. Yeah.
and there's, so we call it the Waldstein Sonata in the Western world because it was dedicated to the Count von Waldstein. But it's such a prosaic name. I really love the nickname which it has in Russia, which is the Aurora Sonata, and Aurora being the goddess of dawn, and the idea that this theme is like the rose-tinged fingers of dawn just appearing on the horizon.
Right.
And then when it comes in fortissimo, that's the glorious blaze of the sun.
Oh, I love that. Inspired.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah, that's very.
it's
Oh, wow.
it just gives you such a
Unique
an image.
picture that you wouldn't. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So
And
visionary.
so
Visionary was.
exactly. So there's that. And the last sonata, which for me, if people press me like, "What's your favorite sonata?" And I
Yeah,
hate
someone
those.
asked you actually. I asked my
well,
audience.
I understand why the question, but first of all, one of the big pleasures of doing the whole cycle is that I don't have to choose. I can do all of them.
Yeah.
And I love playing cycles in general because I'm a completionist at heart, and also I'm greedy, and I like everything, and I like
Well, it's
all
a
the
good kind
preludes
of creative.
and all the etudes and all the sonatas. But if I were really pressed, the absolute favorite probably is 111. And the reason is such. For me, the greatest Beethoven is the last string quartets. And the reason why for me this is the greatest Beethoven is this is sheer transcendence. This is where a creator goes so far beyond anything that we're just left speechless in utter awe that a fellow human being could have seen these worlds, could have explored them, and had just also the immense skill to map them for us and leave them for us also to explore. And it's also tinged with immense gratitude for just him giving these worlds to us. And the closest we as pianists, in my opinion, get to those worlds are maybe not so much the Diabelli variations, not the late bagatelles, but the last three sonatas. And of these last three sonatas, the greatest for me probably is 111, and especially the second movement. This is an exploration of, I don't know, the depths of human soul, the farthest reaches of the cosmos, you name it. And you know how everything is a journey nowadays, but playing the second movement is an actual journey from the theme, which for me personally is an evocation of a mountain landscape in early morning, and you feel the freshness of the air, and you have this immense sense of scale. And then the first few variations, it's a gradual awakening of this landscape. Life is coming into it, it becomes faster, more flowing. Then we have the famous jazzy variation, which of course is just a development of the same motif. It goes from 3 to 6 to 12.
Right.
But in terms of spirit, this is for me, like someone in the full blossom of youth, drunk on the endless possibilities which life presents, and the impossibility of defeat, the sureness of victory, and this life at its most effervescent and ebullient. And then from there, there for me the really special journey starts. So the next double variations for me is exactly the split where the low part explores some kind of cosmic landscape very far away, and the upper reaches of the keyboard, they explore something really personal and intimate, and sort of the exploration of the soul. And then, well, I don't want to bore the listeners with
No,
a
I mean,
play-by-play
this just so
analysis.
shows how enthusiastic and really
Yeah, and,
connected you are with the
but
sonatas.
but then so there more things are happening, and then the theme comes back, and it's more warm and overflowing. And then when the heart reaches its absolute bursting point, then he goes into the final ethereal trill variation, and the trill is magnificent because it's both the maximum movement, you cannot move faster than in a trill, but at the same time it is complete absence of movement because you are on the same spot. And this paradoxical focal point of the trill and the final apparition of the theme. And then as a coda, there's a wonderful moment. And I never know whether these things are pre-planned or they just happened, but I find it beautiful. You know how Beethoven always wanted to be at the edges of the keyboard. He was constantly pushing. He wanted the piano to be larger and bigger, and he was constantly requesting more notes from the piano builders. And normally he would have the highest and the lowest note in every piece, and it's a sonata in C. And in the first movement, he several times goes to the upper C, which would be close to the edge of the keyboard for him, but not in the second movement. In the second movement, the only time this upper C appears is right after this last variation. There is a little coda, and it's a duet of two voices climbing up the keyboard, and then they, for 1/32, so a demi-semi-quaver, they touch the C, and then they descend towards the last chords. And for me personally, this just touching the C is like someone who is just a human being approaching and just being able for a split moment to touch something transcendent. And you cannot really hold it, but having passed through this movement, having been through this journey, you can just touch it. And for me, this is that's the last sonata, and this is why I love it so much.
I mean, it shows not only through your explanation, just but also through your thought process of how you have a lot of kind of metaphorical thinking, the way you think of the music, how it is actually on the keyboard, but also structurally. And
you know how to say that you need a maturity, and you need to have lived. Yes, but you also need to have played this particular sonata. I don't think that works mature in our minds if we don't play them. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to wait till I'm 40, then I'm going to start. It's better to start 20.
It's so great to hear you, because I very much agree with you, because when I was younger, you know, certain teachers would be like, you can't play this until you're a certain age. But I've always thought that, you know, I have to start at somewhere in order to get my mind into it, be exposed to it, and then eventually I will mature with the piece. But you have to start somewhere. Oh, this is so great. I mean, I think a lot of audience also has asked me, like, what piece should I play? Am I old enough to play this? Like, what do you think? So now we hear it from, well, thank you so much for, oh no, I knocked over something. But thank you so much for sharing about your thought process about everything.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Dreamstage and my charity, Together with Classical, is sponsoring ticket giveaway. So if you're interested in after hearing how enthusiastic he is, and I mean, I'm very intrigued also by just not only the piano, but the thought process behind Beethoven sonatas that he chose. Links will be in the description. My fans are very eager to meet who's going to be on this classical chat with me, and so you're the first one. It's been great. Thank you.
I'm very honored. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe tell them about where to find your Beethoven project.
Yeah, sure. So if you'd like to watch what we did so far, or follow our future installments, it's the website is beethoven32.com, and I post there all the videos, and I post behind the scenes material, and I write ranting blog posts about various
Yeah, you
matters.
have a blog called Classical Music for All, right?
Yes, yeah, there, which I started writing for my friends who are not musicians, so I was trying to convert them to classical music. But for the Beethoven, I decided I'm going to do a separate blog just about
Oh,
the Beethoven.
another one. Great.
Yeah, so it's all on beethoven32.com. I would love to see the audience there, and for me, one of the greatest pleasures is not doing it. And the reason why I did it as a filmed project and not just as sitting at home and learning is that I really wanted to share it with others, and I wanted to share the journey with others,
Right.
and this excitement of discovering the new works, the sometimes moments of despair of challenges which seem almost insurmountable, and then the moments of happiness when you feel that something does go right. So all the best, and
Thank you so much.
bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Wow, that went even better than I thought. I knew that talking to other musicians would be very fascinating to me, especially with people who definitely have much higher caliber and much more experience than I have. Oh, I love this series so much. It's only been episode 1. And yes, there's our concert ticket giveaway, but please be kind and considerate. If you're able to buy tickets, please just buy them in the link and support these wonderful artists. If you're really not able to, which is also totally understandable, and that's why I'm doing this collaboration with Dreamstage on Together with Classical, you can enter the concert ticket giveaway. Winners will be chosen in about 12 hours, so hope you win. If you've enjoyed our conversation, don't forget to subscribe. Yes, I'm telling you to subscribe because this is a very new channel and I'm very excited about this project and this opportunity to talk to so many different artists. The more people we have subscribed here in this channel, the more people would be interested in coming on and having conversations and sharing their experiences with all of us. So, see you next time.